what we are encourage students consistently to do in MAPT itself is to reflect on what you're doing and not just do it, but the reflection part is so crucial. Hi, Dan.
Oh, hi, Dr. Wright. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Oh, good.
I was going to say that I'm a huge fan of Ask the Dean, so it's a true honor to be here with you today.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad you watch the Dean. It's a lot of fun to do it, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it. So that's awesome. Awesome. Now, where are you calling us from tonight?
Yeah, I'm currently in the Bay Area in California.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Are you from California originally?
I have been living in California the past 9 years, but I was born in Romania.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. What city in Romania are you from?
I was actually born in Romania in a city called Iași, but I lived most of my childhood and the time before I came to the United States in the neighboring country, which is Moldova. A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. The only reason I asked that, I don't know anything about Romania except for a friend of mine taught at a university in Sibiu.
Oh, yeah, there's a medical school there.
Yeah. So she was a professor at a university in Sibiu, and so she was very endeared by Romania, by the friendliness of the people and the beauty of the country. So yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, we're gonna look a lot at your information tonight and try to see where things stand for you in terms of the preparation for applying to medical school, and then hopefully by the end of our session today, we'll make some judgments about your preparation and where you are and how you should move forward. So, you ready for that?
Yes, definitely.
Very good. Well, we'll start off by looking at MAPT, and for anybody that's listening or watching this video or listening to the podcast, MAPT is a great tool for pre-med students to use, and anybody that's used to looking at these broadcasts in terms of Am I Ready? Hopefully you've seen that the power of it is really great, and there's a lot of great insights that you can gain about your own preparation for medical school application, but also gives you a sense of kind of where you stand and what that application might look like in the once you start it. So we'll look first at your GPA graph, and we have it on the screen now. We see that your AMCAS calculation GPA is a stunning 3.87, and science GPA of 3.82, and you're obviously a super great student and are working hard and in school and stuff. But we do see, and this is a very interesting graph to me. And so what I'd like for you to, because we see at the beginning a definite difference between the beginning and as things progressed, and certainly over the last probably 4 to 5 years or so, things have gotten a lot better. So why don't you describe to us what we're seeing here on this graph, the initial dips a little bit, and then so tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here.
So I attended my undergraduate at University of California, Berkeley. Just graduated last semester. Mm-hmm. So what we see here in the beginning, that was the first summer. Actually, that first semester you see on the graph is the summer even before my undergraduate started, and that was actually it was a summer program at UC Berkeley that I did. It was intended for students who perhaps needed to get ready for to start classes in the fall. It was like a prep program, mostly for students who come from underrepresented communities and low-income communities who maybe need this adjusting to college life. Mm-hmm. So That's what I did the first summer, and I had an amazing time. But I was taking only two classes, so I did well in them. And then the dip that we see there, starting my first semester, that was, first semester of college.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, and that was quite a little bit different. I didn't have as much support as I had during the summer. I was taking a full load of courses. Um,
Right.
so I didn't do
Yeah.
terribly, but it's definitely, not how it happened in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had what many students have, which is an adjustment period
Mhm.
to college life and to what it's like in the classroom in college and how different that is from high school.
Mhm.
And so we see that and you didn't do poorly. I would say you did, pretty well. It looks like that semester GPA during that first fall semester was, probably about a 3.45 or 3.43 or something
Mhm.
around there, and which a lot of freshmen in college would die for because it's not bad at all. But then you seem to kind of figure it out. And would you say that that's true? You sort of got your college legs under you a little bit and were able to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think, as I started taking courses, I started learning what it actually means to study and the amount of effort that it takes, and how college is different from high school. I think a lot of the times, we go into college thinking that it would be the same as high school, but it's a lot different.
Right.
Um, and everything that I think that really helped me was a set of a mindset shift. I think
Yeah.
that happened. I think that happened around the spring of 2018, 2019. I think that was the first time I got a 4.0. And I think that happened because I started seeing college and my courses kind of differently. I think before that semester, I always thought of school as kind of like an obstacle to get where I want to be, or I kind of seen
Hmm.
I kind of seen this courses as just some type of knowledge that I will never use again. But then when that summer or that spring, I changed my mindset and I saw how all these things are preparing me to actually become a physician, um, and how I can connect what I'm learning in general chemistry to what I like, such as microbiology, which is what I
Yeah.
majored in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's an awesome sort of paradigm shift for anybody to go through. And I'm glad that you went through that paradigm shift early in your college experience, because I think it's important. And what you've said is really, I think, vital. And we can say that about a lot of things in life in general, that
Mhm.
it's not about the destination. It's not just about the destination. It is indeed also about the journey. And the journey is what gets us to the destination, but it's also we learn things in that journey that will help us later on in life and later on as we build our career or whatever it is we're talking about. But so I'm that's great to hear you say that and to articulate that in such a way that, and I would hope that our viewers and our listeners will really connect with that idea that this is
Mhm.
not just as you put it, an obstacle to getting where you want to go, but it is indeed the journey. It's the
Mhm.
pathway that you do that by. So that's great. Excellent, 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 excellent. And so what we see again in this graph is by the time you were, looks like probably a sophomore, you really did have it kind of figured out in a much better way and had that paradigm shift. And so we see this graph go remarkably up by, looks like, your sophomore year into your junior year, and then it really goes way up after that. Looks like we have a lot of either 4.0 or pretty close to a 4.0 semesters. And so that's awesome. Very, very, very good. It's clear that you've got good study skills, that you've got a good head on your shoulders, that you're an intelligent guy, and that you can
Thank
do
you.
well in the classroom. So that's awesome. That is really, really great, and particularly in a difficult major like hard sciences, like micro. My expectation is that, particularly toward the end of your college experience, you were taking a lot of science classes all at the same time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Well, good, great. Well, this is the picture I see here in terms of the academic work is a great picture. You've got a strong GPA from a great undergraduate institution and you have really done well in preparing yourself academically for what is to come in the future. So that's fantastic. Congrats on that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move down, if we could, to the bottom, and let's look at the MCAT before we go back to the activities. So we'll do the numbers together. So why don't we? So we see a graph here of a variety of MCAT points: October 2020, December 2020, February 21. A couple of different ones. Now, are all these practice exams?
Yeah, these are all practice exams. I'm currently studying for the MCAT. I plan on taking it on April 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we see on the graph is mostly practice exams. So I took my first diagnostic on October 1st. And then when I started in October, I kind of planned it to take it for February, but I was not able to get February or January, so I was not able to get a date. So I kind of started slacking in my studying, thinking, oh, because I have a lot of time, I'll take it in April. So I didn't truly start preparation until I would say this January.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
okay. Yeah. And what I see here is, it looks like, what we have on the graph for those that are listening on the podcast is we have graphed out here each of the subscores over those 4 practice exams that you've had. The diagnostic and then the practice exams. And then we have also the total score lined out here. It looks like that in terms of a total score, your most recent score was a 508, and that looks like that's the highest of your practice exams thus far.
Yes, so 508 was on Blueprint full length 3, I think. That was the highest score I've gotten so far. So I'm currently using the Blueprint to prepare for my exam.
Sure.
Which I definitely like it a lot. And I'm going to start using the AMC materials in February. So sorry, not February, I meant March.
Yeah.
So hopefully as I get to mid-March, I'll still fill in this content gaps that I have.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm gonna score a little higher on the AMC material, because after all, while the third-party exams are great, but there's nothing like the AMC material themselves.
Right. Yeah, and I think it sounds like you're doing it the right way. You've got a good methodology going here. I definitely think once you get into the AAMC practice exams, I think you'll get a little bit better idea of kind of where you are related to a score on each of these sections. Now, not uncommonly, we see that in terms of the 4 sections of the MCAT, your CAR section is the lowest, the highest being biology and biochemistry, which makes sense related to your major. That's going to be the most related section to your major, and CARS being the lowest section. And this is pretty common profile that I see here in terms of those subsections and stuff. So this looks really good. I'm encouraged by the growth here. It looks like you're increasing. Do you have sort of a score in mind that is your target score?
Yeah, I think my target score would be at 515.
Yeah.
I'll probably be happier of anything than 512.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. So this looks great. I would say, keep up the good work. Study hard. Preparation is very important, and it looks like you're doing that in a realistic and reliable way, using the blueprint material, and then going forward, looking at the double MC stuff. So that looks good. Good. Anything that really concerns you more than anything else about the MCAT itself?
Yeah, actually, I think one thing that I'm concerned about the MCAT itself is kind of my car's score not improving.
Yeah.
I've been stuck at 125,
Mhm.
and I'm just kind of worried that I won't see an improvement. Obviously, I'm going to put in the effort to see, and I know that I shouldn't use it as an excuse, but kind of English is my third language, and
Sure.
I think that, my reading speed is kind of slow, but even if I try to increase my reading speed, my comprehension goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that, a lot of applicants, also have English as not their first language. So I'm going to try, to not let that
Right.
make me
Right.
think that I can't achieve a higher score.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a very important for you to recognize that, to see that, you know, you just work hard and you do the best you can, and you prepare. Using the blueprint material is great, and that will help you a lot. Anxiety is going to work against you, so try to temper your anxiety with positive self-talk, with whatever it is that helps you kind of calm yourself down, because anxiety is your friend if it's a little bit of anxiety, because it heightens our senses and in our and it can be very positive in terms of getting us where we want to go. Too much anxiety, however, can be a real detriment. So I really encourage students not only to prepare themselves for the MCAT through studying the material, through content preparation, as well as through preparation for understanding how the structure of the exam and the timing and all that stuff, but also to prepare themselves emotionally and mentally for the exam. I think that's very important to in an area where I think some students fail to really adequately prepare themselves. So what I would encourage you to do is, once you get to the point where you're taking a AAMC MCAT practice exams, what I would encourage you to do is, as much as possible, try to simulate the real what it's going to be like in the testing center the day that you're taking the exam. In terms of timing of the exam, if you get an afternoon, evening test time, then take the practice test in the afternoon, evening. If it's a morning, then do it in the morning. As much as possible, do it in places where you're not going to have the total ability to control your environment. In the testing center, things are going to happen. You're going to hear noises. You're going to hear talking. You're going to hear clickety clack of the computers and stuff. And so, you can't prepare for having complete silence and no distractions, because there are going to be distractions. And so, as much as possible, go to the public library, go to your school library, go to Starbucks or wherever you want to go. Take a practice exam in an environment where not able to really control everything that's going on around you. Doesn't mean you have to take it in a totally crazy atmosphere, but going somewhere where you just, if you do all the practice exams in your room in complete silence, then that's not gonna That's not going to be what you're going to find in the practice in the real test environment. So that's great. That's great. Well, keep up the good work with that, and work with yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself. Grow and improve. Note those areas that you have difficulties, and work on addressing those difficulties in terms of content or reasoning skills or whatever was the problem. But I'm encouraged that you're still, a month and a half, maybe 2 months away from taking the exam for real, and you've got a good practice test of 508 or so, and you got a couple of months. So I would say you're in pretty good shape for where you want to be ultimately. So that's good.
Yeah, great.
Excellent. So now let's go back up on Mapped up to the activities section, and look at that. So we have here on Mapped charted out for us your total activity hours, 6,135.5 activity hours, and those look like they're separated up between employment, some research as well, teaching and tutoring, extracurricular activities. And so we're going to look really closely at all these, and then kind of see where things stand with this. So if we could go over to the left, to the activities tab, and we'll look at these. So the very first one that you have listed here is paid employment of a medical or clinical activity, and you have listed their caregiver medical technician. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's actually my full-time job right now. I work as a caregiver and a medicine technician in a nursing and elderly home. So I think this experience has truly allowed me to understand how important clinical experience is. And I truly understood what it means to interact with patients, because I think before having this clinical experience, a lot of times I thought that interacting with patients would always be just something positive, but and most of the times it is definitely positive. But I learned how to act and how to interact with patients that sometimes are being aggressive, or some patients who are not cooperating all the time. So I definitely enjoyed, and I'm truly still enjoying this activity. Because my MCAT is coming, I think I'm going to go for part-time starting March.
But you're working full-time right now.
Yeah, I'm working full-time right now.
Okay, good. So you've got 1,100 hours in that activity. So that's great, because this is definitely clinical activities that's giving you a lot of good contact with patients. And as you said, what you're seeing here is the reality of patient care, which is that you cannot control how patients are going to react. You cannot control how they're going to respond to you, whether it's going to be in a pleasant way or in a difficult way, or whatever. And so you're getting to experience that and kind of see what medicine in the real world looks like, and that's great. And it sounds like you're having a good experience with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. That's awesome. Okay, why don't you let's crawl our way down this list a little bit and kind of see. Why don't you tell us, maybe not everything point by point, but just give us the highlights of kind of what we're seeing here.
Yeah. All right. So I can talk about the experiences that had the most impact on me in my undergraduate. So another thing that I've done was I volunteered for a strict clinic called Imago Dei Strict Clinic. So what I did here is that we worked every Saturday or Sunday or during the week. We would be a team of 4 or 5 students, and we would go around in the community and teach the homeless community how to use a drug called naloxone, which is an anti-overdose drug. Because as we know, there is currently an epidemic of opioids in the United States, and especially here in the Bay Area and in Oakland and Berkeley area and San Leandro, we have this epidemic of opioids that is affecting the homeless a lot. So through this clinic, after receiving proper training on ourselves how to use this drug, we distribute it and we give it to the members of our houseless community who would be able to use it in case that their friend is being overdosed or themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. And was that experience very satisfying for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think especially come from my cultural Eastern European background, I think I had a lot of negative thoughts about the homeless community. And I think that this exposure to them helped me learn so much and, change completely my views that I used to have before. And to understand, how their homelessness, it's in fact a product of so many injustices that happen in our society.
Yeah, yeah, great. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and basically what you're talking about here is reflection. You're doing these things, but you're reflecting on what does this mean? Why did I have these attitudes that I had about the homeless? But also, what are you getting out of this in terms of maybe changing that perspective, seeing them as real people, and I think what we are encourage students consistently to do in the mapped environment in mapped itself is to reflect on what you're doing and not just do it, but the reflection part is so crucial to understanding yourself better, to understanding your circumstances better or the circumstances of others, etc. So that's fantastic. So you've got 250 or so hours of doing that outreach activity. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then even though this is not a lot of hours, I'm going to talk about my experience interpreting the Russian.
Yes.
So yeah, growing up in Moldova, I learned both Romanian and Russian. So in San Francisco, even though United States doesn't have a huge Russian-speaking population, but in the Bay Area and San Francisco, there is actually a lot of Russian speakers, which I was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, every fall is when there is the Medicare Part D enrollment period.
Yes.
So that's when mostly the elderly are able to choose a plan for their prescription medication and their drugs. And this was through student pharmacists at UCSF, I believe. They would go to clinics, elderly centers, and probably some elderly homes, and would help the elderly and the patients choose a plan. And I basically was there with a student pharmacist and the patient, and I would interpret Russian. So this 30 hours, I accumulated them over a few fall semesters.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't something that I've done continuously. Also, simply because the enrollment period for Medicare Part D is only during the full period.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm a little interested now. Let me make sure I understand what you were doing. So these student pharmacists were going into the homes of these people. Mm-hmm. And were talking to them about medications.
Yeah, they were talking about medications. They were just looking on how can they reduce the costs by choosing which plan works better based on the medication and the needs of a patient.
I see. Okay, great. And so in the interpreting activity, did it require you to know a lot of terminology related to medicine and pharmacology, or was it more about the insurance plans and how to get those set up or things like that?
Yeah, I didn't really need to know any Russian medical terminology, even though I did use a few words. But also, I noticed that even though the Russian-speaking patients may not know the the language, they did understand the name of a medicine in English, so I didn't really
Okay.
have to
Okay.
translate the name of a medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, good. Yeah, that's a wonderful experience that you had. I'm sure not only being able to use your Russian speaking skills, but also just being able to watch this reality that a lot of people have, where they're having to struggle through the sometimes very complicated aspects of our healthcare system. And insurance and Medicare and Medicaid, and all of those things are sometimes not real easily understandable, particularly for populations that are coming from a non-English speaking background.
Mhm.
So absolutely. So what a wonderful thing that you were doing there. That's great.
Great.
Now there's a page 2 here.
Yeah, it's only 2 activities, I believe.
Okay.
Virtual shadowing, which I'm currently doing right now. So
Hmm.
thanks to Dr. Gray for putting on the e-shadowing. And then my research experience in a lab. I can talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
please
So
do. Yeah, please
yeah,
do.
I think uh, research has been an important part of my undergraduate experience, and I would also say that it influenced and strengthened my desire to go into medicine, because it showed how important research is to further the field of medicine itself, and how medical innovation and new treatments is all dependent on the research. And the biggest part that I enjoyed about the research experience, because it aligned perfectly with my goals and interest in medicine. Um, I think one of the main reasons I wanted to go into medicine is because I'm interested in working with obese patients.
Hmm.
Um, and in this lab, it was a nutritional science lab in which we did study obesity and potential therapeutics. My mentor was working on an implant that could potentially promote burning calories and energy expenditure by um, differentiating certain cells into brown adipose cells. This way, they would
Hmm.
release heat, and patients would be able to burn those calories and hopefully be a therapeutic for obesity.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I worked on that project before my senior year, where I worked
Yeah.
on my own project. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. And so that's 960 hours of your research experience over looks like a period of around 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that about
Exactly.
right? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And do you see research as something that you would like to continue in your medical career?
I would definitely say yes. Um, and I did ask actually during Ask the Dean a couple of weeks ago if I should talk about my interest in research in my personal statement. And the kind of feedback that I got from Dr. Gray and you was that it 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 shouldn't really be talked in the personal statement, but maybe emphasize it in the personal activity section.
Yeah. That sounds. I agree with that, and I definitely want to be consistent with what we said before. So yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah. So yeah, and I definitely think that there not only in the activity section, but there will be potentially in secondary applications.
Hmm.
There may be other places where you can talk about that a little bit more in terms of what you envision your career to be like, and what that. Because I also noticed, if we could go back to page 1 of the activities, I also noticed that you've got quite a bit of teaching and tutoring kind of experience.
Yeah, definitely. I love teaching. I think I have 3 or 4 activities where I
Yeah,
teach.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
I think it's one of the best way to give back to the next generation. So, and to train to make the future of society better. So hopefully I'll be able to use all the skills that I learned.
yeah. Do you see, would you be interested in teaching as a part of your medical career as well?
Yeah, I think so. But I know that medical school is a lot of times different from what we envision, and our interests definitely change over time. As
Right.
I've seen how my interests changed in college. Um, One thing for certain, I know I want to become a physician, but how exactly my future career will look like, I hope that I'll have time in medical school to explore that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Good. Yeah, and you will have the opportunity in medical school to, at most medical schools, they're going to give you quite a bit of opportunity to be involved in research, for sure. Some you will have opportunities to do research on a limited basis if you want to, or on a much more expanded basis. So, for example, there are a lot of medical schools now where in pockets of time that you have during medical school for you to be involved. There will also in research. There will also be opportunities for you to, for example, take a year off from medical school in the midst of medical school and participate in research activities. If that's interesting to you, there will be so there'll be a lot of things that will be presented to you in medical school that will give you the opportunity not only to uh, participate in research, but also to participate as in tutoring and things like that. So I'd really encourage you to, if you find that these are things that are fulfilling to you and very satisfying to you, then seek out opportunities to be able to do those things as you're going through medical school as well. Because I think that I hope that you agree with me when I say this, that um, it is my experience that I learn a lot more than the students learn when I'm teaching and when I'm tutoring. So I learn, if I'm tutoring a certain subject matter, I learn a lot about that subject matter by teaching it.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so that's great. So keep that up. I would really encourage you to continue to explore and do that. The other thing I was going to say about your activities is something that comes up pretty frequently these days, within the context of the pandemic and COVID and all that stuff, and that is that the shadowing that you are doing now is e-shadowing, and Dr. Gray's e-shadowing experiences that occur every week are giving you the opportunity to learn more about patient care through the virtual environment that he offers, and through the practitioners that he has on the broadcast. Now, were you anticipating, prior to the pandemic, were you anticipating being able to do some shadowing, like real shadowing?
No, yeah, definitely. I definitely planned on doing real shadowing, but it's been really difficult to find,
Yeah, absolutely.
someone who would let you do it. And I don't blame them. I mean, I understand. It's very important that the patients and clinics are safe. And I totally understand the physicians who said that unfortunately at this time we can't do it. Yeah, the only thing is, how are going medical schools to look at that?
Yeah,
Are they
yeah,
going to be understanding? I really hope and think that they'll be understanding, especially since I think that the pandemic had also been difficult for medical schools as well. I think some
yeah.
of them also did, certain parts of their curriculum transitioned towards virtual learning.
Yep.
So hopefully they will see that it has affected, uh, you know, systemically everyone, including pre-meds and medical students.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and that's really that's exactly the point that I wanted to make here. Is everybody's in the same boat. We're all experiencing the pandemic and the limitations that the pandemic has placed on us, and so what you've noted here, particular to your situation, is that shadowing is not available right now. So you're doing the thing that you can do, which is the
Mhm.
e-shadowing. And so what I would say is absolutely the medical schools are going to understand the difficulties that this places students under. Medical schools have definitely had to shift their own activities, many of them to virtual. I would say most medical schools right now are largely virtual. Much of the curriculum that they're pursuing right now is virtual, and even in the admissions process, they're interviewing virtually, which is so. So every piece of the puzzle, whether it's pre-med, seeking shadowing experiences, etc., whether it's medical school students or applicants to medical school in the application process, particularly in interviewing, and then leading down to the actual curriculum of medical schools. Everyone's being affected by the pandemic, and so I think this doesn't erase the necessity completely for gaining clinical experience, but I do think it changes the sort of the way that the medical schools are going to kind of view these particular activities and what students are able to do and being able to do. But I think that you've mitigated that not only through e-shadowing, which is great that you're doing that, but also the fact that you have gained employment in a clinical setting where you are getting these experiences and really helping you understand what clinical medicine is all about, and giving the medical schools the satisfaction of knowing that you've been in the environment, you know what you're getting into, and you know what patient care is all about. So that's great. That's really fantastic. Great. So let's the last thing I want to look at is, do you have on the left medical school tab, do you have some medical schools listed there that you're interested in?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah. So on this list, I only have MD schools. I do not have any DO schools.
Okay.
And my primary interest is in family medicine and internal medicine. So, and I know that DO schools really value family medicine and have are kind of actively trying to promote that. And I would love to go. I wouldn't mind going to a DO school. But maybe this is a misconception that I had, that most of them, at least also from my research, require a physician letter.
Yes.
Most of them require one from a DO school, and some of them will accept one from an MD. Will accept one from an MD physician, but I do not have an MD or a DO. So I think because of that, I don't think I can apply to probably 95% of the DO schools. And because of that, I will just stick to the MD schools.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And, I think, clearly your ability to have meaningful experiences with a physician, such as a DO, and then get a letter from them is pretty limited right now. So that's completely understandable. So I see quite a few California schools here, a couple of schools. How many schools do you think you will be applying to? Do you have like a target number?
Actually, during the last session of Ask the Dean, I asked if 40 was too much. And yes, Dr. Gray and Dr. Wright said the 40 was too much. So I think I will go ahead and do 25, which I think it's a good number that would allow me to one, make it financially possible, but also would allow me to submit the secondary applications in time and actually have quality application rather than just applying to a lot of schools and not have good secondaries.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, excellent. Now, I failed to ask you, and I'm assuming at this point that you're in terms of immigration status or whatever. Now, you're a citizen, or you're a permanent resident alien, or where are you with regard to that?
Yeah, I became a citizen 2 years ago. So
well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Well, welcome to welcome to citizenship in the United States. That's fantastic. Well, I'm sure that was a very that was a wonderful experience to go through, and I think you should be really happy about that. That's great. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so it looks like you've got medical schools sort of all across the country. You've got some in California, you got some on the East Coast, you got some in the middle of the country, and so you're kind of all over the place there, right?
Yeah, I have been in California for 9 years, and I do love the diversity, and I love a place. But I can't say that I have extremely strong ties to California. So in reality, I am willing to go anywhere that I'm needed, where there is physician shortage. I haven't really been outside of California actually, so I would love to explore the other states as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you've got a lot of schools on here. I see schools from really all across the country in a variety of different settings and stuff like that. So that's great. And you're using MAP to kind of help you understand about the various schools, and I'm assuming you're also investigating the schools via the MSAR published by the AAMC.
Yeah, definitely. When I look at the school, I definitely look at their mission. And while there's a lot of school that are out of state, a lot of their mission statements include they want physician that will serve and that will stay in that specific state. And I think one of the main reasons I don't include those schools on my list because I'm a California resident. I don't think I'll have a same chance as someone from a state.
Yeah, sure. Well, I do see at least one Texas school on there, noting that I am a Texan. I always am interested in that, the TCU UNT School of Medicine in Fort Worth. So that's great. I'm glad to see that you've not ignored the great state of Texas.
Yeah, and I know that most Texas schools also their application is through TMDAS, right? So,
right.
I think that
the TCU UNT school is not. They participate through MCAS.
Yeah, I think a few of the private schools in Texas do participate through MCAS.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Well, let's go back to your dashboard, and let me tell you a few things. Just my thoughts about where things are. Just cutting to the chase here, Dan. I don't see any reason here to suggest that you should delay application. I definitely think that applying this year. You would be well suited to apply this year. You're obviously a very good student. You have a good, strong GPA. You're working on the MCAT score. And even if let's say in the worst case scenario that you were stuck at the 508, 510 area, that's still not a bad score, but we're going to hope for a better score than that. You've still got two months to prepare, and that'll be great. You've got some good, strong clinical experience through your activities that you're currently participating in. I also like it that you've got research experience, although that's not always necessary depending on the school and kind of what their what their mission is and stuff like that. But I would say you've got a variety of activities that are applicable both in teaching, your research experience, as well as the clinical experience that you're gaining now. So, all as a package, I definitely think that I would encourage you to apply this year, and I think you're ready to go for it. You got a good plan in place. You've got a good. Sounds like a good head on your shoulders, and you're thinking the right way about everything. And so I'm going to really encourage you to apply this year and see how things go. And hopefully by this time next year, you'll be celebrating your admission to medical school and your pending matriculation at one of those schools that you've applied to, and you'll be able to be on well on your way to making a career in medicine for yourself. So how does that sound?
Yeah, I really hope that a year from now I'll be celebrating that. So thank you so much for your feedback. I think it's very helpful. And MAPT has definitely been very helpful at helping
Good.
me outline my goals and see where I'm standing and what things I need to work on. So thanks
Yeah.
for that as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm glad it's been a good thing for you, and we really do enjoy the opportunity to be a part of the lives of so many kids, yours in particular, as we're discussing tonight,
Mhm.
and it's been a great thing to get to meet you, Dan. And what I would encourage you to do is to keep in touch with us and let us know how things are playing out, and we certainly want once you get those admission letters offering you a place in those classes, we want to celebrate with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thank you.